Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. CPoe, and the topic is the power of forgiveness. Dr. Poe, I think that within the framework of the information that you've given us, if we were to take these ideas of the power of forgiveness and focus on some of the things that are happening in the world today in terms of people, in terms of situations, and let's look at what is happening on the United States border now with all of the children coming from various parts of South America and Central America, and et cetera. What kind of forgiveness could you bring in terms of how could you settle that with this idea of forgiveness?
Right. Well, you know, the scripture says, judge ye not that you not be judged. And I think that there are a lot of people who, because of their past mistakes, are angry at themselves and therefore judging themselves. And when we do that, we tend to judge other people. I believe that God, and according to His Word, wants us to be compassionate, wants us to reach out to those who are less fortunate. It bothers me when I hear people are so judgmental of other people who are in desperate need. I mean, these children who are coming to our country looking for freedom, looking for a better life, I think ought to be responded to with compassion, and I think we ought to be merciful. I mean, we're a big enough country, we have enough resources to be able to offer solace and to offer assistance to these people. Just think about what a difference it would make if there was a practice of forgiveness. And by the way, I understand that in Ireland now there's a researcher by the name of Dr. Robert Enright, who's a psychologist on the staff at the University of Wisconsin. He's doing some work in elementaries, in one or two elementary schools in Ireland. You know, there's been this conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants there for years, and teaching the children the concept of forgiveness. And it's having a positive effect. And so we need to teach forgiveness in the public schools in our nation today. Because with my grandson, we have Xbox in our house, and almost everything that you can buy is violence. And so he's constantly watching violence on the weekend and right now after camp. You follow me? And so you know, it's like the gun situation. All right. I mean, you know, how much more do we have to suffer because before we put some constraints on owning guns? What would be the situation between the Palestinians and the Israelis if both sides were willing to be forgiving? What would be the situation in the Ukraine between Russia and the Ukraine government and the insurrectionists if there was a practice of forgiveness on both sides? What would be the situation in Syria? What would be the situation in Afghanistan? I mean, look how much we have suffered because of our refusal to practice forgiveness. And I think it starts with being able to forgive oneself, being able to accept one's own shortcomings, one's own mistakes, and rather than denying that I've done some wrong, I have been down, okay, and now I see other people are down, and therefore I should have compassion for others as others have had compassion for me. And so, Dr. Haney, if there was a more endorsement, more teaching of forgiveness in our schools, if the government gave some encouragement to teaching forgiveness, it could make a world of difference.
And so, Dr. Poe, in a real sense, it's the same kind of mental kind of thing that we've talked about all along. You always bring us the kind of information that we think that we need, and it's an information that is in reality worked within the Bible. I mean, it's a spiritual kind of thing. I think you indicated that you've made a trip to India, and you've seen a lot of things in reference to that. Developing your own spirituality, and you believe that if more people were to think in terms of forgiveness and be open and allow God to operate in their lives, that we would have a better world. Is that, I mean, that's no pie in the sky kind of thing. That's a reality that you believe in.
Yes. We need more emphasis, not so much on justice. I was watching a DVD on the power of forgiveness. And you remember the Amish, this person who went into school and killed 5 girls and injured 5 girls, and the Amish, because in their culture they don't have a concept of revenge, they forgave the perpetrator. Also, you remember Dr. Martin Luther King having been killed by James Earl Ray, and do you remember his son went and visited James Earl Ray when he was in prison? I think it was in California. There's another researcher by the name of and I can't think of his name now, but he's an outstanding researcher on the staff at Virginia Commonwealth University, and he's done a lot of research in the area of forgiveness. And his mother was killed by a young man, and he sought the young man out and forgave him. In any event, forgiveness, if practiced, if taught to our children in schools, if practiced in relationships, okay, where there's so much domestic violence going on. Suicide rate is so very, very high in our country. The homicide rate is still too high. If people were willing to practice forgiveness, Dr. Haney, this would be a different world.
And even on the local scene, Dr. Poe, we talk about the international scene and what's happening nationally and et cetera, but even among, excuse me, among people that we know individually here, among our local folks, that we could also practice forgiveness among ourselves. Is that what we're saying?
Very much. Look at the racial divide. You know, we hear about the racial divide, the political divide, the gridlock in Washington, the conflict between Republicans and Democrats, okay? All of that could be reduced significantly if both sides, wherever there's a conflict, were willing to embrace or practice forgiveness. And again, it starts at home. It starts with me being willing to forgive or to accept myself as a human being who's imperfect, as a human being who's made bad decisions, as a human being who will continue to make some bad decisions, no matter how committed I am to the Lord. I'm gonna make some bad decisions, present and future. So with that understanding, that enables me to feel compassionate towards people who are making bad decisions. It enables me to be compassionate towards people who are hurting and who need my help and who need the help of other people.
And finally, Dr. Poe, we're all a work in progress. Is that what we're saying?
Absolutely.
The last minute and a half in reference to that. We are a work in progress. That is, we are not complete. But go on, make some statements.
Yes, we'll never have it all together, Dr. Haney. When they lay me to rest, there will still be some unresolved issues, some things I didn't achieve, some conflicts and issues that